not a good way to go. I had failed, and it was all my fault. The warpers caused me to panic and go too quickly, and I didn't go back when I should have. All was lost, my prawn suit and all its upgrades. What was I gonna do now? Well, I'll tell you what, I certainly was not going to give up. I'd come way too far to give up now. My thoughts flashed to all I'd accomplished. Repairing the drive core, braving the sparse reef, and even the lost river. It all led up to this point. This is where I either decide to give up or press forward. And based on the fact that this video exists, I think it's pretty safe to say that you probably know what I chose. I spawned back inside my base after my death in the lava zone. I quickly surveyed the situation. I'd lost my prawn suit, the drill arm, grapple arm, and MK1. However, I had no need for the grapple arm anymore, so I decided to focus on building the prawn suit itself, the depth module MK1, and the drill arm, which I would still need for the kyanite. The first step was the prawn suit. I cut the one gel sac I had into 3 spores and planted it in my outdoor grow bed. This would allow me to have an infinite source of gel sacs. Next, I took a trip to the mushroom forest, more specifically the mushroom caves. These caves are a great source of shale outcrops, which I would need a lot of. After a good amount of cave diving and resource hunting, I had acquired a good amount of resources, as well as some cyclops fragments. Next, I grabbed some metal scraps scattered throughout the creepvine biome. After I grabbed some rubies in the Lost River, I finally had enough resources and built the second prawn suit of this playthrough. My next goal was to build the MK1. However, this would mean another trip to the Lost River for the nickel. I brought my Seamoth to the Ghost Canyon, a place full of nickel and other resources. And after I'd grabbed all the nickel I needed, among other resources, I headed back to the surface. After I got back, I constructed the depth module MK1 and equipped it to my prawn suit. Now, the only thing I needed was the drill arm. Fortunately, the trip to the mushroom forest had supplied me with plenty of diamonds, which meant I already had all the resources I needed. Once I constructed it and equipped it to my prawn suit, we were finally back to where we were before the lava zone claimed my first prawn suit. And I knew what that meant. That meant it was time to head to the lava zone once again. This time I was going to be a lot more careful. I'd now fallen through the floor twice, and I really didn't want to do it again. I don't think I can really describe the nerves here. I was very anxious during the entire trip. I didn't want to lose everything again and have to make it all for the 3rd time. So I took my time as I made my way to and through the Lost River. I had a terrifying close call as I was making my way through the bulb zone. I recorded this a while ago, but I'm pretty sure it was shaking and everything. As I traveled past the disease research facility, a warper teleported me out of my prawn suit. Fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, I have plenty of experience with warpers. When they teleport you out, all you need to do is immediately swim forwards. Once you're away from them so they can't hit you, you can look around for your submarine and get back inside. Despite these stressful challenges, I eventually made it to the cove tree and traveled to the lava zone entrance. I thought back to last time. I remembered falling through the floor and how terrifying and heartbreaking it was. I really didn't want that to happen again. After some time, I collected myself. I jumped right in, ready to face any challenges this game might throw at me, and immediately fell right through the floor. We were off to a great start. I stood there for like 5 seconds. No joke, trying to figure out if this game could read my mind or something and was trying to haunt me. But eventually, I decided I should probably move on before another warper got to me. What happened next kind of concluded in my mind that this game could actually read my thoughts and was trying to psychologically terrorize me for its own enjoyment. That is to say, another warper teleported me out of my prawn suit, in the lava zone where I would slowly die because of the heat since I was too lazy to find a reinforced dive suit. I freaking hate these things. The encounter, no joke, left me at 5 health. Seconds more in the lava zone would have cost me my life. Now that I think about it, I seriously should have hooked myself up to a heart rate monitor, because at this point, it probably would have been at about 3,000. After lots of stress and fearing for my life, I eventually made it to the lava zone chamber. This time, it would be a lot more difficult to find kyanite, but nevertheless, I calmed my troubled nerves, and put my focus on acquiring kyanite. I was very lucky, and I quickly found 3 small crystals and 1 large crystal. This time, I made no mistake about going back for more, and immediately made a beeline for the exit. I wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. To make matters even worse than the fact that I was sitting at 5 health, I was also running low on food. At this point, I began to realize I probably wasn't going to make it to the surface alive. However, that did not mean this mission was not going to be a success. This time, I was actually smart. I know, that's crazy. SpeedyMouse actually being smart? What is this? I was able to make my way back through the corridor and up to the cove tree somehow. Once I made it there, I dumped everything of value in my inventory into my prawn suit storage. I wasn't going to make it out alive, but all my items sure were. After I respawned, I would simply bring my Seamoth down here and take everything back up to the surface. Eventually, I ran out of food, and respawned back in my base. Despite the fact that I died, it had gone a lot better than the previous time. I was definitely getting better at this. Once I respawned and had eaten some food, I grabbed my sea moth and took a trip down to the cove tree to grab all the materials in my prawn suit. The trip there and back was uneventful, which I am very thankful for. I would have to keep my prawn suit in the cove tree, but honestly I was happy with keeping it there. I could take my sea moth everywhere, except for the lava zone. So whenever I needed to go to the lava zone, I would head there and trade it out for my prawn suit. This would mean no dangerous trips in my prawn suit to and from the cove tree, so this was honestly a good thing. The trip had supplied me with all of the kyanite I would ever need for the rest of the playthrough, and using it I would finally be able to build a depth module MK2, which would finally allow me to visit the deepest portions of the lava zone, including the lava castle. However, in order to do so, I had to quickly make another MK1, since my other one was thousands of meters down in the Lost River. Since I would need tons of lithium anyways to build a Neptune rocket later on, I took a trip to the mountain island and gathered as much lithium, diamonds, and gold as I could carry. Once I had that, I finally constructed the MK2. It was time to head to the alien thermal plant, a large precursor structure inside the lava castle. After preparing a lot more food and water than last time, I was finally ready to make my trip down to the lava zone. My goal was to get to the alien thermal plant and then open the teleporter there, so I would never have to travel back through the lava zone. I also brought 2 purple tablets, so I could open the force field protecting the blue tablet I would need, as well as the force field protecting the blueprints for the ion power batteries and power cells. Once I had everything I needed, I brought my sea moth down to the cove tree. Once I was there, I swapped it out for the prawn suit and made my way to the lava zone entrance. Here we go again, I thought as I leaped once again into the dreaded lava zone. Just like last time, nerves were a huge factor here. I had made it so far, losing my prawn suit again would be devastating. As I traveled along the lava zone corridor for the 3rd time this playthrough, I took it as carefully as possible, just like last time. I wasn't going to take any chances. Subnautica, of course, wouldn't allow this to be easy, and sent a warper to warp me out of my prawn suit. Fortunately, using the strategy I told you about last time, I was able to escape relatively unharmed. Once I made my way to the chamber, I began to head in the general direction of the lava castle. My main problem with the lava castle would be the warpers around it, but more so the giant sea dragons that patrol the general area. Sea dragons in Speednautica were not going to be fun, I knew. I needed to find the entrance to the lava castle as soon as possible in order to prevent prolonged exposure to those beasts. I made it to the lava castle without any difficulties. I basically knew exactly where the entrance was and quickly made my way to it and through it. It was very terrifying because I could hear the sea dragon roaring in the background and I knew he was nearby. Once I was inside the lava castle, I grabbed 4 crystalline sulfur, which I would need to build a Neptune rocket later on. One major annoyance inside the lava castle is the lava lizards that inhabit it. In Speednautica, these things pose a much larger threat than they do in normal Subnautica. They dealt a large amount of damage to my prawn suit, and before I knew it, I was at 38 health. But eventually I made it to the center of the castle, to the alien thermal plant which supplied power to all the alien facilities. I quickly found the entrance and made it inside. We were finally safe, for the time being. I explored the thermal plant without any difficulty. The only problem was the annoying glitch that makes my prawn suit get stuck in the floor. The best way to fix this is to go outside the thermal plant and then come back in, so I had to do that several times, which was very frustrating. I could swear they fixed this like 5 months ago, but despite that, I was able to unlock the blue tablet and ion power blueprints. I had accomplished everything I needed to in the alien thermal plant. I opened the alien teleporter that brings you back to the quarantine enforcement platform and traveled through it. Once I was there, I headed right back home to my base. Once I made it back to my base, I constructed the second blue tablet I would need inside the primary containment facility. Once I had everything I needed, I headed back to the mountain island, and then through the portal that brought me right back to the alien thermal plant. This was it. If I made it to the primary containment facility, I would never need to travel through the lava zone again. If I didn't, and I died, I would have to build everything from scratch for a second time. Let's just say I was very anxious. I hopped out of the thermal plant and made my way to the exit of the lava castle. I ran into a lava lizard once again, but I was able to make it out at 92 health. The sea dragons would pose even more of a threat now. I would be heading right into the center of sea dragon territory in order to venture into the cavern where the primary containment facility resided. I exited the lava castle and made a beeline for the entrance of the lava lakes. As I approached my destination, I could see the sea dragon swimming around in the background. I had to hurry, and that I did. I made it to the entrance and quickly jumped inside. What happened next, I still don't entirely understand, even though I watched it like 10 times. As I fell down, carefully feathering my prawn suit boost in order to not fall through the floor, the sea dragon came right with me. I thought it was him that was attacking me and draining my health incredibly fast, as we can see here. But it turns out that the spot of ground that I was standing on was actually lava that hadn't been loaded yet. I jumped off it after finally realizing. As I did so, the sea dragon went behind me, and as I turned around to see where he went, he was gone. He disappeared. I don't really know what happened to him. He could have gone through the walls, been launched away, or simply gone back up the way he came. All these are equally likely. Sea dragons are really weird, so I guess we'll never know for sure. I made it through the lava lakes untouched. The final message from the Sea Emperor Leviathan made me jump like 5 feet, but other than that, I made it to the entrance of the primary containment facility with no issues. Who knows where the sea dragon that normally patrolled the area was, but I'm not complaining. My prawn suit was at 42 health and I was extremely relieved. I would never have to travel through the lava zone again. I don't think I can describe the pure feeling of relief and joy, but suffice to say I was very happy. I opened the force field with my blue tablet. It was time to explore this bad boy. I went around to each room, opening the teleporters that needed to be opened and grabbing the database entries that I didn't really need, but I grabbed anyways. And finally, I opened the passageway to the moon pool, brought my prawn suit, and jumped right in. Now the experience of the Sea Emperor Leviathan is drastically different in Speednautica. Let's just say that the whole experience took a lot less time than it normally does. Before I knew it, I had obtained the blueprint to the hatching enzymes. It was now time to find the 5 plant samples I would need. However, when I tried to exit the aquarium through the moon pool, I realized my jump boost wasn't strong enough. I would have to obtain the samples without the protection of my prawn suit. After grabbing the sea crown sample, I made my way to the portals that led to each sample, completely forgetting that there was a portal inside the aquarium that led outside the aquarium. Exactly for the purpose that the jump boost wasn't strong enough. So remember that part about how I said I was really smart? Yeah, scratch that. But oh well, it wouldn't be a problem, I thought. The first place I went to was the crag field for the eye stalk sample. I was worried about the bone sharks there, but it ended up not being a problem. However, next was a lost river, which was going to be much more of an issue. My main worry was the river prowlers, which patrol the area outside the portal. I took a decent amount of damage from the brine, but was able to grab the ghost weed sample. Next up was the fungi sample, which I obtained with no issues. Finally, it was time for the bullbush sample. Last time I beat Subnautica, I encountered bone sharks, amphiols, and more in this area. As I went out, I didn't see any predators, but right after I grabbed the sample, an amphiol jump scared me, causing me to hurry back to the portal. But everything worked out in the end. I'd acquired all 5 samples I needed. I headed through the portal that brought me back to the quarantine enforcement platform. Once I was there, I headed back to my base and built the hatching enzymes. It was time to hatch the Sea Emperor's children. After I made it back to the quarantine enforcement platform and headed back through the portal, I inserted the hatching enzymes I had just constructed. The babies hatched, said goodbye to their mother, and then traveled through the portal I just came back through, free of the enclosure their mother had lived in for so long. But what was most important was the enzyme 42 they left behind. I needed it in order to be cured, disable the quarantine enforcement platform, and eventually leave the planet. As I approached and touched one of the spheres of concentrated enzyme 42, I felt a huge wave of relief. I was finally cured. We'd done it. I went through the portal that the Sea Emperor's babies had just recently gone through. This time my goal was to disable the quarantine enforcement platform, so I could build a rocket and leave the planet. I traveled to the facility's control room and turned it off. All we had to do at this point was build the rocket, which would take a lot of resource gathering. First things first, I had to get my Seamoth back. It was currently over 1,000 meters down in the cove tree, and I would need it in order to make all the resource gathering easier. I grabbed my prawn suit and made my final trip back through the Lost River. Once I made it to the cove tree, I grabbed my Seamoth and left my prawn suit behind. It had served its purpose. Once I had my Seamoth, I had to travel to the Aurora for the Neptune rocket blueprints located in the captain's quarters. I made it to the room without encountering any issues, and acquired the blueprints. While I was at the Aurora anyways, I decided to explore the bottom section of the Aurora I wasn't able to explore last time, and acquire the black box data that can be found there. Once I had done that, I left the Aurora ready for all the resource gathering that was ahead of me. The first part of the Neptune rocket, the launch platform, was very easy. I had all the titanium I needed. I just needed to grab a bit more lead as well as some table coral and copper for the computer chip. Once I had everything I needed, I constructed it over the grassy plateaus. Next was the gantry. This part was even easier than the platform since I had plenty of lithium and I quickly constructed it. Next up was the boosters. I had the nickel ore and the materials to make the wiring kit and plasteel ingot, but I was short 1 ruby for the aerogel. A quick trip to the Grand Reef solved that problem, supplying me with the ruby I needed and more. Once I had everything, I constructed it. Up next was a fuel reserve. Thank goodness I was prepared for this part and I had the 4 kyanite and 4 crystalline sulfur. But I had to search for titanium for the plasteel ingot, as well as silver for the ion power cells. This wasn't too difficult, however. I quickly acquired everything I needed and built it. Finally, I had to build the cockpit. and I knew this was going to be the difficult part. I was able to easily construct the plasteel ingot, computer chip, and enameled glass. However, the last part of the cockpit is the Cyclops shield generator, and this can only be constructed in the Cyclops. This meant I had to find all the fragments for the Cyclops and build it. Fortunately, since I knew I'd eventually have to build one, over the course of the entire playthrough I'd acquired a little over half the blueprints I needed. All I needed was 1 engine fragment and 2 bridge fragments. A quick trip to the crag field supplied me with the 1 engine fragment I needed, without having to worry about reapers. The bone sharks, they were super annoying though, and they ended up almost destroying my sea moth on multiple separate occasions. But it ended up okay. Next, I headed to the mushroom forest for the 2 bridge fragments. I found these with little issue. The weirdest part about the Cyclops is that it's low-key harder to build than the entire part of the Neptune rocket I'd already built. It needs 3 plasteel ingots and 3 enameled glass. It's ridiculous. After searching for metal scrap, I built the ingots, and after hanging around near some stalkers, I had the stalker teeth. I will say it's a lot quicker to get stalker teeth on Speednautica than it is in normal Subnautica. It's one of the few pros of playing the game this way. Eventually I built it, after grabbing some lead, lubricant, and building an advanced wiring kit. Once I built it though, I quickly realized I didn't even have the blueprint for the Cyclops shield generator, and that meant a trip to the Sea Trader's Path, the best place to find the blueprint. The trip went very smoothly, and before I knew it I had the blueprint and was heading home. It is probably important to mention that I almost died from thirst here, but I was able to make it home in time. However, in order to build a shield generator, I needed some polyaniline, which meant I needed some deep shrooms. And for some reason up to this point, I'd never actually grabbed a single deep shroom, despite the many times I've been to the Cove Tree. This meant one actual final trip this time to the Lost River to grab some deep shrooms. Once I had those, I built the polyaniline and finally the Cyclops shield generator. We'd done it. It was time to leave this planet. I quickly constructed the cockpit and headed inside the fully functional rocket. I flipped each switch, turned on the computer and life support systems, and prepared my time capsule. We were ready to launch this thing. My mind thought back through this crazy playthrough. There were ups and downs, but overall, it was completely worth it. Satisfaction spread throughout me as I pressed the button to launch the rocket, and it was at this moment that I realized I'd completely forgotten to save. Oh well, it was completely immortalized in my recordings forever anyways. Looking back on this playthrough, there were lots of things I could have done better. I could have been a lot more careful with my prawn suit, for example. The times where I fell through the floor could have been easily avoided. As you may have noticed, I got more and more used to using the prawn suit in this challenge as time progressed. I went slower and was a lot more careful towards the end, and made way smarter decisions. One other thing that would have made the playthrough a lot easier was getting the Bobo Tree food source sooner. It could have saved me tons of time getting food. The 2 times I died could have also been easily prevented. I think a hardcore run of this is definitely possible, seeing how much better I am at this challenge now. I've also experimented with speed 10 on live stream, which is the max speed you can go. I'll link my stream of that in the description. It was interesting to say the least, and I developed multiple strategies that just might work. Maybe that'll be the next challenge I try. Let me know what you want me to do in the comment section down below. Also, I'm extremely surprised my PC didn't crash once during this playthrough. There were some times of incredible lag where I was no joke getting 1 frame per second, so I wouldn't recommend trying this unless you have a pretty good PC. The main negative effect this playthrough has had on me is the fact that I can't play or even watch normal Subnautica without feeling like things are traveling incredibly slowly. Walking around in the prawn suit feels like I transformed into a snail. I don't know how long it's going to take for things to get back to normal, but something tells me it's going to be around for a while, especially because this playthrough is only the beginning. Let me know in the comment section down below if you like this video. Do you have any video ideas? Subnautica challenges you think I should try? Any questions or concerns? Please let me know. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, it's free, plus it helps me out a ton. Help me reach 25,000 subscribers as fast as possible. Also, please check out my other Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero content, you may like it. Be sure to check out my Discord server and Twitch channel, the links are in the description. If you want to be awesome, please support me on Patreon. Thanks to my patrons, Sir Lord Mister, Electrobite, Skeptic Baby Yoda, and King Ocho. Become a patron and support today. The link is in the description as well, and I will see you guys in the next video.